All right, so today we're going to dive deep into the world of semiconductors.
Okay.
Um, you know, those tiny chips that power pretty much everything around us.
Right.
I think most people have probably heard about the trade tensions, you know, between the U.S. and China, but how's all that actually playing out in the tech world?
Yeah. Well,
You know, we're talking about a market worth like $139 billion
wow.
globally.
It's a huge market.
And the U.S. itself contributes over $60 billion in equipment sales.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. And what I'm really curious about is how are recent U.S. policies kind of shaking things up, you know, in this industry?
Well, I think what's fascinating is that the U.S. is actually trying to reshape the entire semiconductor supply chain to reduce reliance on China.
Okay.
And this means that American companies like Applied Materials and Lam Research, who are really key players in the space, they're having to adapt quickly.
So, like, when you say adapt, what does that actually look like for these companies? Is it like small tweaks, or are we talking like massive overhauls?
Closer to massive overhauls, I would say. Leo, because you see these companies specialize in building incredibly precise tools that are needed to actually manufacture these chips.
Okay.
So we're talking about things like lithography, etching, and deposition.
Hold on. I'm already getting lost in the jargon.
Okay.
Can you break it down for me? What exactly is like deposition? Why is it so important?
Sure. Think of it like this. Building a chip is kind of like constructing a microscopic multi-layered cake, right?
Okay.
Deposition is basically the process of laying down those super thin layers of materials atom by atom to create the transistors and the circuits that make a chip function.
Okay, so it's like way more intricate than just like slapping some silicon together.
Oh, much more.
So where does China fit into all of this?
Well, for years, China has been a key supplier of various components that are used in these chip-making tools. But with these new U.S. policies, companies like Applied Materials and Lam Research are now being pushed to source these components from elsewhere.
And that can't be easy, right? Like switching ingredients in a process that precise.
It's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
It's a huge challenge for these companies because they have to make sure that the new components actually meet the same exacting standards.
Right.
All while still trying to manage costs and production timelines.
Yeah.
And for Applied Materials, you know, they pull in like $26 billion in revenue.
Wow.
Lam Research at $15 billion.
Sure.
Huge. The stakes are incredibly high.
So, like, for companies that rely on Applied Materials and Lam Research to actually build their chips,
Right.
what does all of this mean? Like, longer wait times, higher prices.
Potentially both.
Oof, not good for my wallet.
You think about it, if these companies are facing delays and increased costs in getting the components they need, that's inevitably going to trickle down to the chip makers and then eventually to us as consumers. That new phone or laptop you've been wanting could end up costing more than you expected.
Right. But I'm guessing there's a bigger picture here, right? It's not just about avoiding, like, Chinese components, right?
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The U.S. is really looking to strengthen its position in the global tech landscape
Okay.
and ensure a more resilient supply chain. This move away from China is partly driven by concerns about national security and maintaining technological leadership.
So is it kind of like a high-tech, like, tug of war between the U.S. and China?
In a sense, yeah, because China has been heavily investing in building its own semiconductor industry,
Right.
you know, aiming to become self-sufficient and even dominate the global market.
Wow.
And the U.S. sees this as a threat.
Okay.
And so they're responding with these policies that are aimed at kind of curbing China's rise while boosting American competitiveness.
Okay, so it's like a power play with some seriously high stakes. Okay, well, how are these companies like Applied Materials and Lam Research navigating this really complex situation? Like, are they managing to replace those Chinese components without major disruptions?
That's where things get really interesting. While they are facing these short-term challenges that we've talked about,
Right.
they're also seizing this as an opportunity to diversify their supplier networks and explore new avenues for innovation.
Oh, so this like forced adaptation is kind of pushing them to become more innovative.
In some ways, yes.
Wow.
They're exploring alternative sources in places like South Korea, Japan, Taiwan,
Right.
countries with strong tech industries, and closer political ties with the U.S.
Right.
make them attractive partners in this new landscape.
So they're not just like playing defense, they're going on the offensive with innovation.
Exactly.
But all this research and development, that's got to be costing a fortune, right?
It absolutely is. It's a massive financial undertaking.
Yeah.
But also a strategic one. They're essentially betting on innovation as a way to maintain their market leadership and navigate these geopolitical shifts.
So they're not just tech giants anymore. It's like they're becoming strategic players on like a global stage.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
It's kind of mind-blowing to think that the fate of like the entire tech industry could hinge on these decisions made by companies like Applied Materials and Lam Research. Sounds like we're entering a whole new era of semiconductor production.
We are. And it's an era marked by heightened competition, geopolitical maneuvering, and a relentless drive for technological advancement.
And what happens next is going to be crucial.
Absolutely.
So will these companies succeed in establishing new, robust supply chains? Will this forced shift lead to a surge in like US-led innovation? Or will it like stifle progress?
It's hard to say for sure. There are a lot of factors at play.
Yeah, these are some big questions.
Yeah.
But I think before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's take a closer look at how Applied Materials specifically is tackling these challenges. I understand they're making some pretty bold moves.
They are. They're doing some fascinating things with their supply chain and their approach to innovation.
Okay.
We can dive into those details next.
All right, perfect. Let's hear more about that.
Okay. Applied Materials is really at the forefront of this whole shift.
Okay.
They're not just looking for like one-to-one replacements for these Chinese components.
Right.
It's more strategic, focusing on building a more resilient and geographically diverse supply chain.
So what does that actually look like in practice? Are they just shifting production to other countries?
It's more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
They're really looking at a multi-pronged approach.
Oh.
So first, they're strengthening relationships with existing suppliers in allied countries like Japan, South Korea, and the EU. These regions already have, strong technological capabilities.
Right.
And closer political ties with the U.S.
Makes sense.
So that makes them more attractive partners in this new landscape.
So it's about like building stronger alliances in the tech world.
Exactly, yeah. It's about creating a network of trusted partners who can provide a stable and reliable supply of components.
Right.
But they're also going a step further.
Yeah.
They're investing in new manufacturing facilities outside of China.
Okay.
So diversifying their production base to mitigate risk.
That's a pretty bold move. Like building new facilities from scratch, that can't be cheap.
No, it's a significant investment, but they see it as essential for long-term stability and growth.
Okay.
They're also exploring partnerships with smaller, more specialized companies in different regions.
Okay.
This allows them to tap into niche technologies and expertise that might not be available from larger suppliers.
So they're casting a wider net, thinking outside the box.
Exactly, yeah. It's about agility and flexibility.
In a rapidly changing world.
Right.
But perhaps the most interesting aspect of their strategy is this focus on innovation.
Yeah, we talked about their research and development efforts earlier.
Right.
Can you kind of elaborate on what they're actually working on?
So they're investing really heavily in developing new materials and manufacturing processes that can reduce reliance on specific components or suppliers altogether.
Wow.
So for example, they're exploring the use of artificial intelligence
AI?
and machine learning to optimize their production processes.
That sounds really futuristic, like AI-powered chip manufacturing.
It's cutting-edge stuff.
Wow.
They're also looking into next-generation lithography techniques that could enable them to create even smaller and more powerful chips.
So pushing the boundaries.
Pushing the boundaries of what's currently possible.
Wow. And this is where the competition between the U.S. and China gets really interesting.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, China has been pouring resources into catching up with the U.S. in semiconductor technology.
Right.
Particularly in this advanced lithography. But, companies like Applied Materials are determined to maintain their technological lead.
Yeah.
They see this push for independence as an opportunity to accelerate innovation. And create a new generation of chip-making tools.
So it sounds like we're witnessing a technological arms race playing out in the semiconductor industry.
Yeah, I think that's a very apt analogy.
Wow.
The stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah.
Whoever controls the most advanced semiconductor technology will have a significant advantage.
Right.
In everything from artificial intelligence
Wow.
to 5G networks
From military applications.
to military applications. Absolutely.
It makes you realize just how crucial these tiny chips are
Yeah.
to the future of the world.
Absolutely.
Wow. And it's not just about like national pride or economic dominance.
Right.
It's about shaping the future of innovation
Exactly.
and technological progress.
Yeah.
So while there are definitely short-term challenges and uncertainties,
It sounds like there's also a lot of potential for exciting advancements down the road.
I think so. I think this period of disruption could ultimately lead to a more innovative,
Okay.
diverse, and resilient semiconductor industry.
All right. Well, let's shift our focus to Lam Research.
Okay.
They're another key player in this whole story.
They are.
And their approach, I understand, is also really fascinating.
Yeah, I think so too.
So they specialize in etching and deposition, right?
That's right.
How are they adapting to these new policies and this shifting global landscape?
They're facing very similar challenges to applied materials.
Okay.
You know, having to find new sources for components and navigate potential cost increases and delays.
Yeah.
But like their counterpart,
Right.
they're not simply reacting to the situation.
Okay.
They're using it as a catalyst for strategic change.
So what's their game plan?
Oh?
Are they following a similar path to applied materials?
Yeah, I think in many ways their approaches are parallel. You know, they're also strengthening ties with suppliers and allied nations, investing in new facilities outside of China,
Okay.
but they're also placing a particular emphasis on building a more collaborative ecosystem.
What do you mean by collaborative ecosystem?
So they're working very closely with their customers, the chip makers,
Okay.
to understand their specific needs and challenges in this new environment.
Great.
And they're also partnering with research institutions and universities
Wow.
to tap into cutting-edge research and development.
So it's about creating like a network of
Yeah.
shared knowledge and expertise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They recognize that navigating these complex challenges really requires a collective effort. They can't do it alone.
Right.
And this collaborative approach is also extending to their own internal processes.
What do you mean?
So they're breaking down traditional silos
Okay.
between different departments, encouraging more cross-functional collaboration.
Okay.
This allows them to be more agile and responsive.
Makes sense. Changes in the market and the geopolitical landscape.
Okay.
But one of the most interesting aspects of their strategy
Okay.
is their focus on sustainability.
Sustainability. How does that factor into the semiconductor industry?
It's becoming increasingly important.
Okay.
The manufacturing process for semiconductors is very energy intensive.
Right.
And it can have a significant environmental impact.
Okay.
So Lam Research is investing heavily in developing new technologies and processes that reduce their environmental footprint.
So they're looking at the bigger picture
Absolutely.
and trying to make the industry more sustainable.
Yes, I think they recognize that long-term success
Yeah.
depends on balancing economic growth with environmental responsibility.
Right.
So they're developing new etching and deposition tools that use less energy
Wow.
and fewer hazardous materials.
Okay.
And they're also exploring ways to recycle and reuse materials within their manufacturing processes.
It's encouraging to see that they're taking sustainability seriously.
It's an issue that I think often gets overlooked
It does.
in the fast-paced world of technology.
Absolutely.
But it's definitely a sign of their forward-thinking approach.
I agree.
They're not just focused on surviving the current challenges.
Right.
They're aiming to be a leader in shaping a more sustainable and responsible future
Exactly.
for the entire industry.
I think so.
It's amazing how these companies are having to adapt and evolve.
Yeah.
Not just to technological advancements, but to these geopolitical shifts
Right.
and even environmental concerns.
A lot to juggle.
It really makes you wonder what the long-term implications of all this are for the global tech landscape.
It does.
Like, are we headed for a future where every country has to build its own completely independent tech ecosystem?
That's a good question, and I think it's more likely that we'll see like a hybrid model emerge.
Okay.
You know, complete independence is incredibly difficult to achieve,
Yeah.
especially in an industry as complex and interconnected as semiconductors. You know, you have specialized expertise concentrated in certain regions,
Right.
the need for collaboration on research and development, and the simple fact that global trade has been the engine of technological progress for decades.
So what might this hybrid model actually look like?
Well, I think we'll probably see a combination of regional specialization,
Okay.
and strategic alliances.
Okay.
So countries and companies will focus on developing their strengths in specific areas
Right.
of the supply chain,
Mhm.
while also forging partnerships with others to kind of fill the gaps.
So it's like a puzzle
Right.
where each piece represents a different capability
Exactly.
or resource.
It's a complex puzzle, though.
Yeah.
A lot of pieces.
And these companies like Applied Materials and Lam Research,
Yeah.
are they going to be the ones putting the pieces together?
Well, they'll certainly have a major role to play.
Right.
You know, their decisions about where to invest, who to partner with, and what technologies to develop will have a ripple effect throughout the entire industry.
So they're not just equipment suppliers anymore.
Right.
It's like they're becoming architects
I think that's a good way to put it.
of the global semiconductor landscape.
Yeah.
So for someone like me, who just wants to understand how this all affects, like, my life, what should I be paying attention to? What are the key things to watch for in this evolving landscape?
Well, first, I think you should keep an eye on how these supply chains actually evolve,
Okay.
which countries and companies emerge as like the key players.
Yeah.
Where are the new manufacturing hubs being established?
Okay.
These shifts will have a direct impact on the cost, availability, and even the types of technology we have access to.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What else?
Pay attention to the pace of innovation.
Okay.
Will this push for independence lead to a surge in new technologies and breakthroughs? Or will it slow down progress
Right.
as companies struggle to adapt and collaborate across borders?
Yeah, that's a good question.
The answer to that question will have profound implications for the future of everything,
Yeah.
from artificial intelligence to renewable energy to healthcare.
It's a lot to think about,
It is.
but it's also incredibly exciting to be witnessing this historical shift
I agree.
in the tech world.
It's a fascinating time
Yeah.
to be following this industry.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it highlights the importance of understanding these global dynamics,
Yeah.
not just for those of us in the tech industry,
Mhm.
but for everyone.
Right.
You know, semiconductors are the foundation of the digital age.
Yeah.
And the decisions being made today will shape the world we live in for years to come.
Well, you've definitely given us a lot to ponder.
It's a complex topic.
Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I think the key takeaway here is that we're in a period of profound transformation. The semiconductor industry is at the heart of a global power shift,
Yeah.
and the outcome is still uncertain.
Right.
But one thing is clear. The companies that can adapt, innovate, and collaborate effectively
Yeah.
will be the ones that thrive in this new era.
It's a fascinating time to be following this industry.
It is.
And I encourage everyone to stay informed and engaged.
Absolutely.
And if our listeners want to delve deeper into this topic, where can they go to find more information?
Well, we mentioned siliconanalysts.com earlier.
Right.
They have some excellent resources and analysis on the semiconductor industry.
Perfect. We'll be sure to include a link in the show notes.
Great.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been an incredibly insightful conversation.
I'm glad you found it helpful.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope you've gained a better understanding of how global forces are shaping the technology that powers our lives.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring.
See ya.